Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have back with us Alan Masri, who's the founder of Safe Money Income and Insurance, and we'll be talking about navigating retirement with confidence. Alan, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me, Mike. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so I know that this is something that's super important because, number one, people tend to put off planning for retirement until it's later. And then if it's later, they're making some snap decisions that they're not really confident about. So talk a little bit about where you start working with your clients to make sure that they have a good, clear blueprint and plan in place to give them that confidence so that they can navigate to and through retirement.
Well, it's an emotional journey, from working life to retirement. And, retirement is often seen as a reward after years of hard work. But again, it's emotionally, the transition can be very complex. So for many, it's not just about leaving a job. It's about leaving behind a routine, a sense of purpose, their identity, and social connections. That's a really, really big one. So, I'm just going to get into some of the, emotional challenges that people have. So let's look at loss of identity, for example. Many people define themselves by their career. When they step away from a career, it creates a feeling of like, who am I and what do I do now? One of the biggest ones I see in this is law enforcement officers. They really struggle with this. Another big one is, the loss of structure, without a daily schedule. Some retirees really struggle with how to spend their time, productivity, and life doesn't feel meaningful anymore. You know what I mean? And another big one is the social isolation. As you know, when we look at our elderly population, they are somewhat socially isolated. And what I try to do is, try to provide or show them how to get regular interaction. And, so they don't have that loneliness. So, we try to, show them how to look at new social outlets, and develop them. And then, the anxiety about the future. A big one is the worry about the health, the aging, and again, running out of money can cast a shadow over what's meant to be a joyful time. So what we do is we try to position them with products and investments that, and I shouldn't really say the word investment. Let's say financial products that will help them, stay balanced, and knowing that they have a steady income every month. It really helps in many ways, and there are vehicles out there that we do use to help them achieve those goals.
You mentioned a couple things that I want to dive a little bit deeper on because I think it's something that people only think, oh, retirement, do I have enough money? Where's my investments? All of those things. Well, identity. Sense of purpose. You spend X number of years, decades working, and then all of a sudden you throw a party because you're retired. Well, 6 days later, you're like, maybe I'm bored. Maybe I don't have a purpose to get up for it, to go to work and punch the clock. And maybe I don't have certain goals. And that can really affect their lifespan. I've heard some research that says, oh, wow, if you don't have a purpose or something to live for with your work and you retire, all of a sudden that can really shorten your lifespan. Have you seen that be like a concern for some of your clients as well?
Absolutely, I have. I could tell you, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it. I have a lot of, again, federal employees, but the postal employees in general. I'd work with a person 2, 3 years later, the spouse would call me, say, hey, so-and-so just passed away. I'm like, what happened? He was very healthy. He was great. What happened? She's like, all he did was sit at home and watch TV all day and just, eat ice cream, drink sugar drinks. He never got involved in anything. I can tell you firsthand, that plays a major role. I mean,
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, look, find something you like, and volunteer, because that I do that here. I do that on a
Yeah.
consistent basis. I do that quite often. I probably spend more than 20 hours a week volunteering. And when I what I tell them is when you volunteer and you do something that's you're helping others, it is so rewarding. It makes you feel so good because that's my personal experience with it. And I see that so often where people just isolate, they don't really get involved. They feel that, things have changed so much for them that they just don't know how to even go out there and do it. So I try to make recommendations to them. I give them names of organizations where they can volunteer. If it's religious, if it's a medical setting with children, whatever it is. And the ones that actually go out there and pursue that, they do very well in retirement, very well. The ones that
Yeah.
isolate and do the opposite, they don't tend to do very well. It's
And,
unfortunate.
and you mentioned charity and nonprofit. I mean, there could be some people that go, you know what? I took my month or two off, and I'm kind of now I'm going to start that little side hustle, that little side business, or something, even some consulting to where they can maximize their mind that they still have fresh. But I think that that's a big thing that probably you have the conversations with your clients of not only what does retirement look like for you as far as money and how much you're going to need, but how are you going to spend your hours? And having some quantifiable things like what you mentioned there is super, super important. So have you worked with any clients that struggled emotionally with that and they found out, and then when you kind of helped guided them into that, it kind of gave them that sense of purpose and freedom?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned the side hustle. That's a big one.
Yeah.
And when I run to the client that really is going to that I know they're going to struggle financially in retirement, and if they're typically pretty healthy, I tell them, I say, hey, find something that you enjoy doing, but now it's not a full-time job. You're doing something you enjoy, but at the same time, you can make some extra money. And if you don't really need it every month, you can put it away, save it, do things like that with it. But that's a great point that you made, Mike, and I appreciate you brought that up. Um, and the ones that are able to do that, they do also very well. They really do.
And they do probably another word that you brought up in a previous conversation with like your community, interacting with other people, meaning what if you are a widow or a widower and then you're sitting at home all alone? Well, if you went out and got that part-time job, if you and see, I think you'll agree with this. If you have made poor financial decisions and you have to get that job to make ends meet, that's not a fun situation. But if you go get a part-time job just to have a little pocket change and have some fun money, but mostly to get out and be active and interact with people. And I don't care if it's, working at I was literally at getting my vehicle emissions tested this weekend, and there was an older gentleman helping check cars in. And I was like, well, you know what? That he probably works part-time and has a good time, interacting with people. It doesn't have to be, 24 hours a day of work and feeling that pressure. It can just be something for fun. So pick that way,
E-
in your career, you might have not had the luxury of picking something you enjoy. Well, now you do.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, I got a guy that I work with. I know him very well, actually, and he loves working at the car auctions. He just likes driving
Yeah.
the cars and bringing them driving in different cars he can drive that he never was able to drive before, pull them into the auction line and run them back out. I have guys that work security. They just enjoy it. They just like the interaction with people because, some security jobs, you're interacting with people all day long,
Yeah.
and it does give you a sense of purpose and it does allow you to socialize. And I tell them all the time, just do what you enjoy. And it's not a full-time thing. No, I tell them, don't, that's not what this is about. This is about just doing something to help you get by, but something you enjoy. It gets you out of the house. It keeps you mobile. You're not static. And I'll tell you, I got some folks, they love doing stuff like that in retirement. They just enjoy it. They could never ever do it in their original career. And they
Yep.
love it. They enjoy it. They really, really do. And I'll tell you, I've seen I had a couple that sat around for maybe the first year and then Had a follow-up meeting with them on, on an annual basis. I meet with some of my clients, and I had mentioned that to him, and he was really going downhill. But he did, take the advice, and he went and started doing something he enjoyed. He couldn't do when he was working, maybe 10 hours, 15 hours a week. But I'll tell you, the difference it made in that
Yeah.
person was shocking when I saw him after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's huge. And it kind of gets into mindset. And it reminds me of this question as you were talking, there's different, stages of our life. We got to accumulate and grow and strive and get money. And then we got to make sure we have enough money in retirement. But then how about this? How can financial security, making these good decisions and this good plan, how can financial security ease the transition from growing and striving to actually giving yourself permission to actually spend some of your money in retirement? Because I think if you start getting into, we got to save and put money away, then you get to retirement and you're like, we can't take that trip. Well, maybe you can. You should give yourself permission. What do you advise your clients in that respect?
I'll tell you, I have some clients that because of their financial situation, where we would put an annuity together just for them to go on a vacation every year. It's
Mm-hmm.
guaranteed. They know how much they can spend and how much they, will be coming in, and they will actually use it just for a vacation every year. And then you
Yes.
have the ones that, have enough to get by every month, but they do want to do some traveling, and they will go out and do something where they can earn a little bit of extra money where they'll be able to travel. There's so many ways that it can be done, but again, it really comes down to what they're able to do and what how their mindset is. The mindset is very important, and if you can get them to that mindset where, hey, you can have fun, you should have fun. Okay, maybe it's a little difficult, but here's what you can do to get that additional income or money or whatever in retirement to allow you to do those things. So that's one of the ways we do it. But a big one is I do have clients where we do set up annuities just for an annual vacation.
Yeah. Yeah. And you need to, ease up and give yourself permission to take it and enjoy it and not, we can't spend any more of this money because. So you've earned it. You've worked hard all throughout your career. Take a little bit and enjoy it. I think that's really powerful. So what are some of
Absolutely.
these common doubts that people have about their retirement plan? Because I think that if someone sits down and goes, okay, we're going to plan our retirement, put together this retirement plan so we have confidence. What are some of the doubts and misconceptions that your clients before they have a plan have? And then how do you help guide them to overcome some of those doubts?
Sure. There's a lot of questions and uncertainty in retirement, and some of the most common doubts people face, and one of them is the fear again is outliving their savings is very, very
Yeah.
common, especially with the rising healthcare costs and longer lifespans. And a way to ease it is, again, work with a financial advisor to build a retirement, income plan, and use very conservative withdrawal strategies like the 4% rule. And they can also include guaranteed income sources like Social Security, pensions, and or guaranteed lifetime income annuities. Those are some of the best ways to be able to take care of those things.
I think that people might hear, oh, well, here's, one option of a financial tool you can consider. And our knee-jerk reaction in life typically is, let me go Google it, find it, set it up, done. So what role does professional advice from someone like yourself, what role does that play in helping someone craft that retirement plan and avoid kind of the noise and clutter that they might see, getting 427 opinions online or whatnot?
Sure. Most retirees are very sensitive to market drops since they're no longer in the accumulation phase of their lives. And they're no longer working, and now they're in the distribution phase of their life. So they should work with someone, first of all, that they trust, that they have confidence in, that can show them, look, if you want to go into retirement, you got to do A, B, and C. You have to be conservative with your money. You have to be smart where you put it. And, what I do is I show them the vehicles that they can use to accomplish those goals. For
Yeah.
example, and I've said it 100 times, and I don't think there's any other way really to do it other than one of the best ways, I should say, is through a fixed index annuity, which gives them potential upside, zero downside, and can provide them with a guaranteed income that they cannot outlive, no matter how long they live. So if the person lives to be 120, 130, you never know. Even if the account goes to zero because of the guarantee, they're always going to get that income as long as they're living, them and their spouses. So, we look at very conservative products. We look at very conservative vehicles that will accomplish those goals. I don't feel very comfortable at all, to be honest with you, Mike, working or jeopardizing a person's money when they're in retirement.
Yeah.
That's my mindset as a professional in the financial services industry. Is my mindset is when I sit with somebody, it's all about safety. It's all about not outliving the income. It's all about not depleting their principal, their assets. And that's how I design everything. And I use several products to do that. And I always make sure that my clients always have some type of annuity with a guaranteed income and some type of life insurance to mitigate the cost of a long-term care situation, number one, and to mitigate the fact that they'll never outlive their money. That's what I try to do. That's just my mindset. But you have other people out there, their mindset is very different. And they don't look at
it's like the tortoise and the hare. If you want to sprint and make big returns, the downside is you might have some big losses. So if you achieve what you just laid out, let's not lose money. Let's keep it safe. Let's have guaranteed income. That's a win right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's my mindset. And that's how I approach every case I work on. That's how I approach every client. I never approach clients saying, hey, let's look at the big returns. Let's look at this. I just don't, personally, I don't feel comfortable doing that at all because I know the reality. The reality is when you subjugate your assets to risk, especially when there's nothing coming in and you don't have the time. I mean, you're at an age where it's your distribution age. There's just no time to make it back.
There's no time to recoup and catch up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's my mindset.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that you feel care and empathy and you don't want to have someone lose the money. How would you feel if some advisor made a recommendation, someone lost a big chunk of money? Well, all of your recommendations are based on safety, security, guarantee. You can't lose there. So I think that is just so spectacular.
I like the cookies when the market goes down.
Yeah, right. The brownies and the cookies. Yep, send them on because their friends came running to them going, oh, my word, look at how much we lost. And now your clients will be like that client that came in when you were doing your business. Like, I didn't lose anything. Yeah. So you make them, you're able to make your clients look like a hero.
Absolutely. We try our best. We really do. We really do. That's
well, Alan, how can people reach out and connect with you and learn a little bit more about getting some of that peace of mind and never outliving their money and just making sure that they've got that retirement confidence?
Sure. They can email us at alan@safemoneyforincome.com, or they can call me on my direct cell phone number, which is 954-270-8972. If I don't pick up, just leave a message or send a text. That's another way. And give me about 24 hours and I typically get back to everybody. And it will be a pleasure to serve the community that's going into retirement and make sure that everybody is doing the right thing for themselves.
Excellent. Well, Alan, thank you so much for coming back on. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you again.
Thank you, Mike. It was a pleasure here also. Thank you.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.